This is Dateline Wyoming, produced in the studios of WyoRadio. Dateline Wyoming is a weekly news feature highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. In-depth analysis and interviews with the people behind the headlines. Presented Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. Views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or those of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. And now, Dateline Wyoming.
As our local economy continues to reflect changes in the energy industry, many residents wonder what can be done to stabilize and diversify the prospects of business in Sweetwater County. Historically, groups and organizations have attempted the daunting task of economic development, with mixed opinions regarding their success. Recently, the Sweetwater Economic Development Coalition has stepped forward to shoulder the responsibility of not only bringing new business and industry to the area, but also supporting existing local business. This is your host for Dateline Wyoming, Tom Ellis. Today's program turns the spotlight on the issue and challenges of creating a healthy business climate in Southwest Wyoming. Our guests this morning are Kayla McDonald, Business Development Manager of the Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce, and Devon Brubaker, Manager of the Rock Springs Sweetwater County Airport and Chairman of the Coalition. They join us today representing the Sweetwater County Economic Development Coalition. That's all coming your way on Dateline Wyoming for Sunday, February 19th, following this message.
Hey. At our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. Bottom line, I just want the news that matters. So where do I turn? My local radio stations. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town, people I know and trust. For the best entertainment, sports, news, weather, and traffic, anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text RADIO to 52886. Furnished by the NAB and this station. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
Our guests on Dateline Wyoming are Kayla McDonald, Business Development Manager for the Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce, and Devon Brubaker, Manager of the Rock Springs Sweetwater County Airport and Chairman of the Economic Coalition. Devon and Kayla, welcome to Dateline Wyoming.
Thank you, Tom.
Happy to be here.
The topic is the Sweetwater Economic Development Coalition. Over the years, we have any number of groups that have been involved in trying to support and promote economic development. What makes this group a little different than the others?
I would say so far that our partnerships have been going really strong, and we have been at this since July of 2016, and we have accomplished a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean we've had a long list of projects and programs that we have implemented throughout the last 3 years that the coalition has been in not so much existence, but moving forward to create a coalition. Everything started with the city of Rock Springs at first, and then we decided to combine resources and go forward and partner with the city of Green River and the Sweetwater County Commissioners to do a little bit more economic development on a more county-wide basis.
Having been involved in some of these previous groups, it seemed like we spent more time trying to get the entities within the county to come together, and often that was a large issue. Every time we came up with something, it wasn't so much trying to get programs in place, it was trying to get everybody to get on board with those programs.
I'd like to say that that's basically been the number one thing that we found to be a challenge at first. We got everybody together and we had 4 main deliverables that we promised the city of Rock Springs, and we went with those. And when we approached the city of Green River and the county on those 4 main deliverables and a couple other programs, there was no problem. They saw the benefit in the partnerships, and at that time, the city and the counties were starting to reevaluate where they wanted to put their dollars towards economic development, and they found a benefit in partnering.
I think the first question everybody asks is, what's in it for me? And it looks like they're being able to have that question answered very satisfactorily.
Absolutely, yes.
You've got a report that you wanted to talk about.
This year, we put out a year in review, and we had just a couple highlights on what we've done since our partnership was established in July. We rebranded and redeveloped our website. It was formerly rockspringsbd.com, and we redid that to resemble more of a county effect to it, show some projects that are going on right now in the county, and we're pretty proud of those projects, basically, like the Simplot expansion. The airport's highlighted on there as well. They have a few projects that are coming up, and I'll let Devon touch on those. But our website, we're pretty proud of, because that was something that the previous economic development organization had struggled to even implement a funding, like a fully functioning website. So we are very excited about that, and it's been a great resource for us. Right now, we're trying to drive all the traffic through advertising to that website. So that's one of the components that we're really trying to push. So we get everybody there, the site selection agencies, developers, local businesses, they can start utilizing those free resources on that website.
What other things are you seeing in that report?
We also responded to 5 of the business council leads that come through. One of them right now, we are still kind of waiting for some remarks back from them. It's a gun manufacturing company. And we put in that proposal at the end of October, and we're hoping to hear back some more, hopefully good news from them. Last I spoke to the business council, they were waiting for the business to kind of sift through these proposals. That's a lot of work, and then they have to weed out the ones that don't really fit the descriptions, what they're looking for. And then we met with 73 business contacts this year. That's anything from a small business who's looking to expand, maybe move, find a new location, also developers, new businesses coming into town. And those are, our great upfront contacts for us, because then we can start helping them find like workforce, or even just identify maybe some challenges or something that they're looking for. A lot of one-on-one contact.
A very important thing to note is that you're also concerned about supporting existing business in expansion and survival.
Yes, the business retention expansion component is our major driver for our economic development organization. We want to keep the businesses here. We want to keep them strong and keep them supported. And then right now, for me, training.
Okay. Talk about that. I noticed that you're going to be doing certified economic development training starting in January.
Yes, I started that.
Or you started that, actually.
Yeah, this is going to be my third week of this. And this is about a 2-year program through Oklahoma University. And it's a institute program, so I have so many I can do online, and then the rest are away, and I get to go to San Antonio in May to do those. And it's basically a good certification program for economic developers, so I'll get a nice background on what's going on and be a little bit more up to speed with the terms.
What is the importance of having that certification?
Being fluent in economic development, knowing the background, and getting to be more established. People actually take your credentials a little bit more serious.
One of the biggest things that Kayla really hits on here with our entire organization, and serving as a chairman of this organization really lets me see it from a different perspective. And I think what we've really focused on is we've hit the ground running, but while we've hit the ground running, we're also looking at the foundation. How do we build a strong foundation so this organization is not only successful today, but successful for years to come? And success for us is establishing new businesses and also taking care of those existing businesses that Kayla mentioned. And it's important that we focus on everybody and look at, especially in this past election year, everybody looks at diversifying the economy. And we're actually an organization that's out there trying to do it. So it's an opportunity for us to establish foundation, but also run with it while we're doing that and respond to these leads. And Kayla's training is absolutely instrumental in establishing that foundation for us. The industry knowledge, industry, if you will, lingo is absolutely important. So when she's sitting down with the site selectors, she's speaking the same language with them, and they understand where we're coming from, and we understand where they're coming from.
That training is a 2-year process.
Yes, it is. It is 2 years, and you can do it online or you can do it in person at their facilities in Oklahoma. But they've set up a really good program where you can do it online. So I'm going to do most of it online. And so far, so good. I'm doing strategic planning right now, and it's been pretty interesting to dive into that right now first, because we're actually developing a strategic plan for the SEDC right now. So that just happens to be at the right time.
Let's talk just a little bit about organizational structure.
We have a liaison from the city of Green River and the city of Rock Springs and the county, and that happens to be Reed Clevenger from the city of Green River, and Amy Allen from the city of Rock Springs, and Doc Wendling as the commissioner. And then we have local banks on board, we have nonprofits, we have workforce services, we have industry as well, and small business. And then we have Devon with the airports. So all of the local economic drivers are there, and we're always looking to add more. We benefit from the help of the downtown Main Streets programs in both Green River and Rock Springs. That's a very strong partnership that we like to have with them, because they are also a very strong component for economic development as well, so helping the downtown thrive as well.
In previous conversations, we've talked about this retail gap analysis project. Where are we with that?
Right now, we are actually working with Chad Banks from the downtown Rock Springs and Jenny Melvin from Green River's URA Main Street to work on a plan that we can actually use dollars from the Main Street program. So right now, we're looking to more than likely combine efforts with the college, and then our committee is a separate committee that we've established to start researching, so we can start looking at leakage and kind of get an idea where that's going. But right now, we're just going to partner with them, combine resources again, and get this done. So we're hoping to have something put together that we can do on our own and go back to the main streets and get a little bit of funding to maybe even hire out a consulting firm.
As I recall the program, it's actually got a 2-pronged approach to identify businesses that we need to bring into the community and also provide a tool for existing businesses to be able to provide services and goods perhaps that aren't currently available.
Yep, that's correct. And that's our plan. And hopefully we can get that going so we can start recruitment. And that's our plan for doing the study.
What are your plans over the next 12 months?
That is one plan that we're going to look into for Retail Gap. And then we are also working on a workforce advisory group. The state actually has a program that they're looking at for creating a secondary resource for employers in Wyoming to prepare for these people who are taking retirements early, the up-and-coming workforce, basically. So we are working with the college and a liaison from the Workforce Council to develop a workforce advisory group. And that'll be something that we'll start working on in March. And that's one component. And then we're just going to continue to strengthen relations with our businesses, continue to add programs, and work closely with our partners. This workforce advisory group will come in hand when we start that recruitment process. We can identify where we need to basically, help with the up-and-coming students. I think the academy programs are a real good benefit to Sweetwater County, and then the college's partnership as well. There's so many good programs up there that the industries actually communicate back and forth to the college and say, hey, we need so many of this field to be looked at, and start developing the younger kids to actually go forward in their career paths.
Western Wyoming can be a huge resource for that whole project, can't it?
Absolutely.
How has the downturn in the economy affected the area? As workers perhaps have left, that's had an effect on it. And also those people that stay, what do you do for them in terms of finding them employment?
And I think this workforce advisory group is key to that. One of the main focuses of the workforce advisory group is to gather the input from all of the local employers, whether they're actually hiring now or not, but allow the college and other education entities within the region and the state to understand what programs we need to develop. So while this economy that we've been suffering with has obviously hurt, we are making steps now to ensure that when this does happen again, because as we all know, this is a cyclical state and this will happen again, that we're well positioned to be able to recover from it in a much faster pace. And one of the things that we've really focused on is, now is the time to focus on investment and not just infrastructure, but also in our community. Now's the time to make sure that we are able to, as we're feeling this pain, we're able to better understand how important it is we move forward with those economic diversification efforts and making sure we have the right programs in place to educate those that do end up losing their positions in the future so that they can gain gainful employment pretty quickly.
Do you see the policies of the incoming administration as being helpful for the situation and making it perhaps easier for some of these companies to survive or perhaps even return to the area?
I can speak from the airport perspective. Up at the airport, we're seeing considerable bounce back over the last couple months, and they could be attributed to a lot of different factors. There's a lot of things happening over in the Middle East with OPEC, and also what's happening in Washington, D.C. with our new president and his administration. It's tough to say to what level each one is impacting it, but there's across the board, I believe, some positive impacts for our local economy here since we're so reliant on the mineral industry, specifically oil and natural gas. We're seeing some big gains there. I believe natural gas prices are reaching their near 10-year highs, and oil is starting to get to the sustaining level. And we're starting to see that happening up at the airport. And lots of times the airport can be a precursor to what's happening with the rest of the economy. You start seeing things come back quicker at the airport before you start seeing the numbers from the cities and the county and the state come back. And we're starting to see some improvements, and whether that's with our larger employers in town, the Schlumberger, the Halliburtons, and those others, we're starting to see them getting back to work, not to the levels they were a couple years ago, but any progress is good progress right now for us.
The other part of that is the revenue available to the cities and the county due to sales tax and so forth. That always takes a while to come back after there's been issues with the decrease in spending, isn't it?
It's a tough cycle for those cities, specifically cities with sales tax. The county is a lot of their revenue comes from the assessed valuation of land, which any kind of economic development or new construction benefits them. But on the cities, they rely heavily on that sales tax. And the latest reports we're seeing out of Cheyenne is that sales tax is turning around and starting to go the right direction. The problem is, like you said, it does take quite a while. I believe numbers I'm hearing is about an 18-month window before those monies start rolling in and showing up for the cities. So there's still a little bit of rough seas ahead for the cities and the county, and I'm sure they're very able to speak to those exact challenges that they have. And we're confident that they're well aware of our impact and what we can do with this organization and how we can take it forward and contribute to further increases in the economy here in Sweetwater County.
Dateline Wyoming with our guests, Kayla McDonald and Devon Brubaker of the Sweetwater Economic Development Coalition, continues following this message.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom. I had no idea how hard it would be and what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and ways for me to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics, but also information about the hurdles I was facing. Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Dateline Wyoming with Kayla McDonald and Devon Brubaker of the Sweetwater Economic Development Coalition now continues. Let's move to another area. Obviously, there's a bunch of people down in Cheyenne making decisions right now, hopefully that are going to have a positive impact on all of us. Devon, can you comment on that just a little bit?
It's been a very interesting legislative session. We have a lot of things that not just affect the airport that I'm very, very familiar with, but we have different things that are affecting local communities and infrastructure projects around the state. As we all know, the states, they're in a tough spot with the revenues that are coming in from mineral royalties and severance taxes and sales tax. They're feeling the pain just as much as our local communities are, and the legislature is really in a tough spot, and they feel the pressure that they need to make cuts. And the Joint Appropriations Committee has made some decisions to cut some very important projects and very important programs around the state in an effort to move some general fund money over to fund education, which we all know is absolutely critical to the future of our state. They've had to make some tough decisions, but they've also offered some solutions, and some of those solutions are some new sources of funding that would allow some of those general funds that have been cut from departments like Wyoming Department of Transportation to be replenished with new fees. One of the examples is the driver's license fee and vehicle registration fees. Vehicle registration fees haven't been increased since 1975, and driver's license fees not since 1993. And with just small increases to those fees on the state side, it will generate almost $21 million of revenue that would offset all the general funds that were cut from WYDOT. That's just one example of many programs where they're looking to cut general funds to fund education, but then replenish it with new fees for the users that actually use the system. While the legislature has made some cuts that I think are a bit painful, I think that they've also offered all of us some solutions to come back from those cuts. And with the latest Craig report that came out of Cheyenne, there's a lot of hope there. They're only showing a $156 million deficit for the state, which is a lot better than the last forecast, which I believe was around $250,000. So we're starting to see some things turn around and the dips slow down. So with that and with what the legislature's doing, I think we're going to be well positioned going forward. It's just important that everybody gets involved, and it's not just from the economic development side or the airport side or transportation side, but what's happening in Cheyenne affects everybody on a personal and professional level in our community. And I think it's important that we all get involved and pay attention to what's happening out there and communicate with our representatives and senators so they understand what we want.
You mentioned that the airport is a really good barometer of some of those things, boarding numbers and so forth. Mm-hmm. How are things stacking up out there?
We're actually seeing some positive gains. In December, our passenger boardings, or employments as we call them, were up 6%, almost 6%. And in January, our cargo numbers, we don't have our passenger numbers yet, but our cargo numbers in January are up almost 15% over January last year. And cargo is one of the best indicators out there. When you have air freight coming into a community or leaving a community, it's a big indicator of the economic direction of your community. And we saw a year's worth of decreases. And January was our first month, and obviously we hope to see a few more months to establish some trend lines. But when you see a 15% increase in cargo year over year in 1 month, that gives you a lot of hope, because these companies rely on next day air, second day air products to keep their operations running. And when they're not in business or they're not operating, they don't need those services. So when you see those large increases like that, especially in January, you're not relying on Christmas shopping season anymore. That's business, that's industry that's using that service. And we did 1.2 million pounds of cargo in 2016, and if we stay on a pace of a 15% growth or so, we could be nearing that 1.5 million pounds of cargo up at the airport.
How does cargo compare with passengers?
Well, it's not directly related, if you will, because there's so many other price points and other issues with passengers that are critical. As you book a fare, whether it's for business or personal, you're going to look at airfare, you're going to look at schedules, you're going to look at convenience, and we offer the convenience. And most recently, we started offering the airfares. We have a lot of great airfare sales going on right now with our airline, United Airlines. People can fly to Denver round trip for $198, as low as $198, and there's obviously different price points as you wait closer to your travel day that increase that. But we have some great airfares that are happening now, which allowed us in December to see that 6% growth in passengers, and we're expecting to see a growth in January again once those passenger numbers come in. So I don't know that it's completely directly or tied to the economy as much as it is that we're seeing some gains because of our airfare sales and improvements in our schedule, but the economy sure as heck does not hurt having those increases.
How does cargo compare as a percentage to passengers in your operation?
Well, we do right now about 32,000 total passengers a year, between 32 and 34,000 total passengers a year. Cargo is a completely different setup. Obviously, anytime you send something via FedEx or UPS, especially if it's second day air or next day air, it's going to come through our airport. For those of you that are Amazon Prime members, if you're going to get your package in 2 days, it's coming through our airport, whether it's on FedEx or UPS. So there's no direct correlation between the two numbers. Cargo is kind of hard to count. We rely on the numbers from FedEx and UPS to determine how much the freight is that's on their plane that comes in 6 days a week. It's a pretty good barometer of where we're heading as a local community.
It's kind of an apples and oranges situation, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's apples and oranges because the passenger numbers have so many different other influences versus cargo. People are going to ship, especially if things are coming back in the economy, people are going to ship. Just because things are coming back in the economy doesn't mean that they're going to be flying elsewhere. They may be staying here. So it's really hard to compare the two side by side. If you have both of them trending up, it makes an airport manager very happy, and it should make people in the community pretty happy. And right now we have both trending up, and hopefully that trend continues.
What other things have you got going on out there right now?
And we're getting ready to break ground on a brand new $5.5 million general aviation facility. And not everybody knows what a general aviation facility really is, but the cargo, your doctors, the CEOs, the personnel that operate out of Simplot, that operate out of OCI, that operate out of Solvay, any of those companies, and there's numerous out there, lots of times they have their own private jets that they fly in, and they need the services. They need to be taken care of just like a commercial passenger is taken care of. So they're going to be flying into a new facility that we're getting ready to construct, and that project is funded by the Wyoming Business Council, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the Wyoming Department of Transportation. And the Business Council got involved in this project because they recognize the importance of it to economic development within our community. They saw our current facilities that were constructed in the 1920s and 1940s as a roadblock to progress for our community. So they have dedicated $3 million towards this project because they see this as it's the welcoming mat, it's the entryway for our visitors, for people making important business decisions, whether they're going to expand, retain, or grow their business here in Sweetwater County. And we want to provide them the best entrance point possible, much like we try to do off I-80. The airport's the other way to get into our community, and we want to make sure that they get a good first impression and a lasting impression. Right now, it's kind of sad to say this, but our customers, our pilots that fly into our facility, we're known as the penalty box of the region. So it's important that we get rid of that moniker, that negative moniker, and we get over to a new facility that supports their needs. It's comfortable. It allows for pilots to get some rest so they can be safe flying. And it also gives us the opportunity to support other businesses that may not come to Sweetwater County because we don't have the right facilities. We'll have a new hangar that can support the largest corporate aircraft in the world, and it'll allow us to be able to take care of those customers that may have chosen to go somewhere else outside of the state instead of coming here to Wyoming. Tourism and visitor traffic is what amounts to a gateway drug for economic development. And that may sound bad. You don't want to tie those two together, but it allows people, when they make that visit, they're like, wow, Wyoming, it's more than what I thought it was. And then they say, hey, I might want to bring my business here. I might want to relocate my business here because this is really awesome. I'd love to raise my family here.
The cultural aspects of that are really crucial to the whole success, aren't they?
Yeah, it is. And it's important that we recognize that economic development isn't just going out and actively seeking businesses, but it's everything from the travel and tourism industry in the state all the way through just a simple fuel stop. When somebody needs to stop and get fuel in their vehicle or in their airplane or whatever it might be, they need to stop and get lunch. It might be their first and only impression they ever get of Rock Springs or Sweetwater County. And if we put the best foot forward with beautification efforts and different things that happen around our community already, it really will propel us to prosperity with economic development.
What's the time frame for that general aviation complex?
We'll be out to bid here in about 4 weeks, and we'll be demolishing our existing facility the last week of March. Starting the last week of March, the new hangar will open up in December of 2017, and the new terminal for this building will open up in March of 2018. So it's about a year-long project.
That will actually have a separate terminal from the passenger terminal?
We do now as well. It's just the one that we're operating out of. The terminal we operate in now is the original commercial terminal from when the airport was built back in the mid-40s, and it's just no longer serving the needs. We don't have a place for pilots to get some rest so that they are fresh for their flights later in the day. We don't have a place for passengers to sit, much like you do in a commercial terminal. We just don't have the amenities that are expected of that type of clientele, and we're excited to provide that because, like I said, it really is going to make a big difference when somebody comes in and says, wow, this airport can serve my needs today. Maybe it could serve my needs on a permanent basis as a tenant here or as a business owner in this community.
That's really an exciting project. What else is going on?
We just finished renovating our runway, our largest runway, 10,000-foot runway. It's the longest runway at this elevation or higher. So we have the highest elevation, 10,000-foot runway or bigger in the entire country, which is pretty exciting for us because it gives us some opportunities to market some of those features. We obviously have our famous Wyoming wind. That's something that as aircraft manufacturers build new aircraft, they have to test the crosswind capabilities of that aircraft. They also have to test the density altitude, which is the density of the air because of our elevation. They have to test that with these new aircraft. So having a large runway, having the infrastructure we have at the airport allows us to cater to companies like that. So we're actively seeking those companies to see if they would be interested in doing business here in Sweetwater County. That's a whole different component that we don't think about here in town because the airport's so far removed from town. But there's an opportunity for us to really grow the economy locally from the airport. Within those 1,200 acres we have there, we can really do a lot.
Final thoughts?
Well, we just would encourage everybody to visit rockspringsbd.com and reach out to the Rock Springs Chamber where Kayla's offices are. If there's any questions about business development opportunities, either for existing businesses or new businesses, we're excited to talk to you and offer the services that we have going now and see how we can be of better assistance going forward.
Kayla?
We are very excited about that new website, so stop in, check that out. We have some good programs coming up in the future. We're just going to start actually putting together a how to start your business in a 3-part session, so look for that to come out here in March. We'll be releasing details very soon.
Our guests on Dateline Wyoming have been Kayla McDonald, Business Development Manager of the Rock Springs Chamber of Commerce, and Devon Brubaker, Manager of the Rock Springs Sweetwater County Airport and Chairman of the Sweetwater Economic Development Coalition. Devon and Kayla, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with my take on today's program and a look at our guests for next week following this message.
Hey, at our startup, my team and I move at the speed of tech 24/7. Bottom line, I just want the news that matters. So where do I turn? My local radio stations. I want to hear from people who live and work in my town, people I know and trust. For the best entertainment, sports, news, weather, and traffic, anytime, anywhere, I stay local. Support your local stations. Text RADIO to 52886. Furnished by the NAB in this station. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out.
Economic development has been a topic that has been discussed and an issue that has been the focus of various groups, committees, and organizations in the county and communities of Rock Springs and Green River. The Sweetwater Economic Development Coalition is the latest to take on the challenge. In today's business environment, it requires a multifaceted agenda with broad support from the business and industrial leaders of the county and the elected representatives of Sweetwater County and the communities of Rock Springs and Green River. It would appear that the coalition is headed in the right direction. That's my take. This is your host, Tom Ellis, inviting you to join us next Sunday at this time as we welcome Bob Nelson of the Rock Springs Museum. That's next Sunday on Dateline Wyoming.
Dateline Wyoming is a public affairs presentation of WyoRadio News presented every Sunday at this time, highlighting community issues and events that shape our lives here in Southwest Wyoming. Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WyoRadio ownership, management, or that of our sponsors. Time will be made available for responsible dissenting opinion. Audio copies of this program will be available each Monday following the program's airtime on Sunday at youtube.com/WyoRadio.